Man, what a boon. I always do say that I would much rather be lucky than good. And tonight, I feel very lucky. We've got a couple of people going to be on with us today. One of them you can see here in black and white splendor. I got to say, Razor, just to kick it off so we can have small talk before we get into like our points and whatnot. I watched the Snake Plissken again. And, do you really think that you could get a copy of, so that you did the whole thing about, I want a copy of this script so that I can see it written out, that he had an Uzi on the, and also, I'll just leave it at that. I'll leave it at that for small talk, but you made it, you invent words. And one of the words I like was defecating and ejaculating at the same time. So if you could talk about that a little bit, and we'll introduce ourselves as we go.
You mean ejaculating?
Ejaculating. Thank you, sir.
Yes. Sometimes, look, Shakespeare invented his own words. What the fuck? Not that I'm comparing myself to Shakespeare. I'm far better looking. But no, I love the fuck out of that movie. And that was actually Escape from LA, not Escape from New York, which everyone fucking hates for some reason, and they should not, because it's a goddamn masterpiece. I like it. I might like it a little more than Escape from New York, and here's why. Because Escape from New York was right, it's right in the heart of the 80s, late 70s, early 80s. So it's kind of creating the genre. Escape from LA is Blood Dragon. Right? It's Far Cry Blood Dragon. It's the parody. It's a full-on parody of 80s action. It just came a few years too early. That's all it was. That's
when you said it that way, I never really looked at it like that. But just for those of us that aren't so into movies as you are, when you say it's an action parody, I watched it. I was just as enthralled as I was with Total Recall. So would you consider Total Recall with Arnold Schwarzenegger in the day? Is that an action parody? And if not, what do you mean when you say
that's a tongue-in-cheek action flick. That's just what that is. Yeah.
Okay.
That was a little different. They do have a similar kind of tone, but Escape from LA is way more out front with it. Fuck's sake, he surfs down Santa Monica Boulevard. I mean, he literally hangs 10 with the hippie dude. It's masterful. There's, underwater Universal Studios, and they get attacked by the mechanical shark. Like, it just goes way over the top, and I love the fuck out of it.
And I've seen that before, but I didn't realize that is Steve Buscemi that I'm seeing. And I totally blocked it out through all of his glory that he found with directing, the Sopranos and all the stuff he's done. I just kind of blocked it out that he was in that movie.
Yeah, he was in
something. Help me out with my trivia, just because you're here and you seem to know about this stuff. Now, The People Under the Stairs, the classic horror movie, that is not Steve Buscemi that plays Roach, the googly kid under the stairs. Is that correct?
Never seen it. And you're barking up the wrong tree if you think I'm a fucking movie.
Well, I tried.
I'm terrible. I don't get along. I don't go to the movies much because I'm that asshole who gets up 50 times to go piss. Like, I'm that guy. All right. I'm the most annoying fuck in the theater that isn't, telling the people on screen, don't open the door. I'm like,
let me guess, with you going to the toilet 50 times during the movie, you've also got a seat in the middle of the row.
Well, it's it might have something to do with the fact that they give me a soft drink that, after you consume this massive fucking swimming pool sized beverage, you have to step out into the lobby for 50 minutes of kidney dialysis. Like, it might, something to do with it.
That's what the popcorn's for, the salt, right? To help you retain the water.
Right. Between the... Yeah, exactly.
And I didn't know. I don't think that is Steve Buscemi, but like I said, man, you never know. Just judging by your reviews, your movie reviews, I mean, you never know.
I don't know. Buscemi's the shit, though. I hope he's in it.
Yeah, he's great. I actually quit watching Sopranos when he was at the end of his whole dream sequences, and I mean, there was some crazy stuff he brought into that. That he's definitely something else. So anyway, yeah, well, I mean, leave it to me, man, to ask somebody something to act like they're an expert, and it's like, nah, man. Last time I did that was with someone else. We won't talk about Korea, Britt.
No. The operative point being, I'm not much of a movie expert because I'm too fucking ADD to sit still for any length of time. That's essentially the problem.
Well, I did have something I guess we can just jump into then. That way we can let you ramble. You know what? I didn't introduce anybody. I think everyone knows who Razor Fist is. Also, we have the Common Senseguy with us. We have the Britisher with us. We have Mrs. Jones with us. Weebo, don't call me Weeaboo Jones.
Got it right that time.
Yeah, because I know myself, I have a tendency to, I don't know. I'm a hillbilly. It's hard for me to speak English sometimes.
Right.
Here.
I'm fluent in
But
English.
I wanted to ask you something, Razor, and then this is just a breach so we can get into some more maybe serious stuff, access your synaptal function a little bit more. But do you know who Angry Anderson is? I'm sure you do. And do you know where he is now? I
mentioned him in the Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome review.
Yeah, shameless of me, right? To get you to talk about your own video.
No, I know, right? No, he's a mother. that was about as thinly veiled as they come. That was a Victoria's Secret camisole, my friend. But Angry Anderson, vocalist of Rose Tattoo, and of course he was cast in fucking Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, which is a movie that has all the identical flaws of Fury Road, but we pretend Fury Road is better because Academy Award nominations. And I love them both. I say this as someone who fucking loves them both, but yeah. It's, you know, the movie where you go out into the desert so that you can go back to the beginning of the film.
Yeah, and drink all the water that's supposed to be rationed.
Exactly. Exactly. And how do you have the fourth movie be about the exact same thing as the third one? Hey, we just found a bunch of fresh water. Fuck, we better fight over it or figure out. But the hilarious part about Beyond Thunderdome is it is I concur. It is slightly more retarded in that the fucking Lost Boys have found the Fountain of Youth. They are in Valhalla, and they desperately want to leave to the cities that are burned out to shit, where there's irradiated drinking water and there's no electricity.
That's crazy. That was probably the best point of that review, because I mean, you're sitting there thinking, why on God's earth would you ever want to leave this for sand creatures that want to eat you in stinky cities with disgusting water that will kill you and make your teeth fall out?
Yeah. Which it makes no sense why mascara head fucking Charlize Theron is why he's leading them to some green place. It's like, hey, motherfucker, I found a green place. It was one movie ago. It's in a fucking gulch. We can turn right now. We can go there. Like this conversation never occurs with Max. Of course, that's not fucking Max. Let's be real.
Well, that's good. And I don't know if you know what. And I'm jumping back, but because it kills me. Angry Anderson was probably. I was young when it came out, Razor. So to me, he was one of the best bad guys ever. The weird face above the whole thing. I mean, the last I heard about him, he was cleaning houses in Australia, trying to make a living. Yeah, no kidding. Check it out. Honest to goodness, working as a Merry Maid. Which, look, no shame to his game. I'm not saying this to take anything away from Angry. In fact, I'm saying this to say that he is the kind of guy, I loved his music. Look, I just liked him. And he is the kind of guy that will do anything that it takes to make it. And yeah, now he's found himself from Mad Max to, he's doing what he's got to do to make $1. I thought you might know that too.
No, the last thing I heard from him is you need to look up a song by Saxon called Live to Rock, which is from just a few years ago. And it's a kick-ass, new wave of British heavy metal kind of anthem. And it's got, of course, it's got Saxon in it. And it has guest vocals from Lemmy from Motorhead and Angry Anderson. That was the last thing I heard from him. So it's not like he's obscure or anything. He plays at Wacken every year, which is the biggest metal festival in the fucking world. So, I think he's doing all right. He probably cashes in once a year and then, I don't know, just so that he can have some spending money. Maybe he does the Merry Maids thing. I don't know. I'm not familiar enough.
That was a bad call to call it Merry Maids. It really was bad. He's I don't know.
Perhaps he actually owns an operation, and he's got 50 cleaners working for him. And
No. You can actually see it now. And don't get me wrong. because of his career and some of the stuff that he's done when he was some of his antics in music, I don't know how absolutely real it is, but I mean, I just watched a little thing where they showed him. He was there and was saying, you know, angry, just doing what he's got to do to make a living. And he's, I mean, it wasn't like a WCW lead up promo. I mean, it was an actual little thing from like a.
He didn't have an athletic supporter on his head. And
yeah, with the little iron bar, and there was Windex up there, so he could just. Oh man, that's terrible. Anyway, I just thought that you might want to know that. Who knows why? I don't know.
Light the minutia signal.
Well, every time I think of the Mad Max, it was such a weird era. It was back in that strange time in the 80s where
when we had a culture and an economy.
when Bruce, well, it's that too. But the mythos that were coming from the 70s and the 60s, Bruce Lee kind of stuff, and I don't know, all this really crazy things that came out from that era.
I think it was also a time when they didn't have, they didn't try to make every movie into a franchise.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd just happen, and if it happened, they'd do this loony fucking thing called putting a number after the title. I know, it's a fucking crazy concept. Instead of putting every goddamn biblical term under the yellow sun after the fucking title, Revelations, Ecclesiastes, fucking good God, just put a fucking number there.
Genesis.
Killing me.
Well, it helps people to keep up too and make sure that they know.
I think we have now warmed Razor's rhetorical motor up, haven't we? I think.
Oh, thank goodness, because I don't even know
begun revving
about Captain America, Brett. So roll on. I don't even care about it.
By the way, I think there was one communal thought that we all had when Ogre came and basically told us that he had got a tweet, he got a direct message on Twitter from you saying that you were stuck in traffic. I think we were all sitting here communally thinking, Godspeed, Razor Fist. Godspeed.
Don't blame me. Blame the voters for voting for a fucking folly trolley that blocks traffic in both goddamn directions.
I can't believe I didn't think of that, Brett. That kind of makes me feel stupid as an American. No. But so since you did say something about Phoenix, I think that Mrs. Jones might have something we can move on to another topic. Because, I mean, look, we could talk about the Milkshake Girls and all this stuff that's going on in Marvel and DC and how they're ruining our lives. But wouldn't everybody rather talk about how politicians are ruining our lives?
Oh, yeah. America's toughest sheriff, Joe Arapo? Is it? Am I saying that right?
Arapo. No, it's Arpaio, but Arapo.
I think that's what the Democrats call him, isn't it?
I think that's what the media's calling him these days. Yeah, I think you're right, Britisher.
Oh my God. Yeah, that sounds about right. For those of you guys who don't know, he was America's toughest sheriff, as I said, and by tough I mean he was very tough on the immigration stance that he took, and in that instance, he actually erected that whole tent city fiasco that everyone's been hearing about with like subpar human conditions. And this is in Arizona, where it gets to be super hot, so that's not ideal by any means. And I'm actually looking at a lot of this, and the way that he phrases it is that if you do the crime, you do the time. But see, here's the thing: most of the methods for the crimes, for the punishments that he was enacting, weren't necessarily ones that would have fit the crime, one, but also are pretty inhumane considering. I've always stood by this principle of if I wouldn't myself inflict someone with a certain type of punishment, then I wouldn't. It's someone that I know with a certain type of punishment, then I wouldn't do it to someone that I don't know. Because I am a police explorer, so that's kind of like my whole area of expertise. I do want to get into law enforcement at some point. And it is important to have consistent practitioners in the law with your morals. And of course, we know that that doesn't necessarily always happen, but it is important to set a precedent. If you guys want to jump in on that. Thoughts, anyone?
It's about I don't know. It's about 20 super tankers of fucking horse shit.
Yeah, please, Razor. Listen, we're all individuals, and we have everybody on this show. So, Miss Jones and you, of course. I want to know, though. You heard one angle there of way to look at it. What do you think? Maricopa County, don't you live there?
I sure do.
I mean, what do you think about Joe? Tell us, man. Take your time.
Well, he was elected 5 times. Is that your first fucking clue? Here's another thing. If you want to talk about punishments that Joe Arpaio wouldn't subject himself to, I want you to look something up for me. Actually, I don't think it's on YouTube. It's probably somewhere else, though. Politically Incorrect with Bill Maher from about 1998. They filmed an episode. Here's how unbiased Bill Maher is. He decides to film the episode with Joe Arpaio. And normally he's got the panel where they get the 2 conservatives and the 2 liberals. Yeah. And they duke it out. This panel, it was 3 liberals and Joe Arpaio. It was filmed live from Tent City with an audience of entirely Tent City inmates.
The fuck?
Is that what
and
one
Joe
calls
Arpaio, Joe Arpaio BTFO'd Bill Maher and all the guests and the the entire audience, everything. So this
I'm looking for that right now, Razor. If I find it, I'll pop it up. I'll take a look and see if I can find any footage from that.
He was on twice. He was on the show twice, but the second time they actually filmed it live and broadcast from Tent City, which was goddamn glorious. So no, from my perspective, he was not a good sheriff. He was a goddamn exceptional sheriff. See, sheriffs have this silly little byline to their butt fucking job called what's it called? Oh, fighting crime. Yeah, and it motherfucking plummeted under the Pillsbury policeman there. He was kind of fat. I mean, John Oliver last night parts his vacuous, limey yap for how fucking long, and all he manages to do is undermine his own argument by drawing all of his stories from the same poisoned as fuck well that it sounds like a lot of your stories are drawn from. Every story he cited was generated by a local comrade called the Phoenix New Times, with apologies to jizz wipes the world over. I mean, this is a publication not only founded for avowedly communistic purpose from the shadow of the hate-Ashbury counterculture of the 60s, but which enacted a vendetta against Arpaio exclusively when he deigned to open an investigation into the paper and their ownership for fucking child trafficking. And oh, hey, by the way, unlike Sheriff Joe, that's a felony, and they were actually arrested for it. That's John Oliver's immaculate fucking source. I mean, I could go item by item if you wanted a 20-day fucking podcast.
Can I ask something here?
Yeah, go ahead, Brett. But yeah, take your time. Anything you want to say, Randy?
Because when one talks about this kind of tent city, so I'm calling it a tent city. I have no idea what the dimensions of it would have been, but wouldn't one basically conclude that the only reasons one would have put the prisoners in tents is because there weren't any other facilities to put them in?
It was partially to help with overcrowding. It was also... It was for myriad reasons. It actually allowed the prisoners to move around more freely instead of being relegated to a cell, believe it or not. Believe it or not, prisoners by and large requested transfer there. I mean, I could go, like, for example, I could go item by item, like I said, but like, we don't want a 20-day long podcast here.
What I'm trying to get at is there won't have been any prisons standing empty while there were prisoners in that tent facility.
Well, no, it was just an additional facility. It helped with overcrowding generally. I don't believe we had any particular problem. You also have to understand, Joe Arpaio was only the sheriff of one county. That was where his prison was. He wasn't in charge of the entire prison system, actually, and that's one of the things that pisses me off fucking royally, is people look at all these iniquities in the Phoenix prison system, which there's iniquities in every goddamn prison system, and they lay it at the feet of Joe Arpaio, when in actuality he only had jurisdiction over one county. And if all of these stories that they're drawing, all of the disparate, injustices that are taking place in Arizona prisons,
surely,
a lot of them would actually have fallen under the jurisdiction of the woman who headed up the entire prison system, who was our governor's fucking girlfriend. And oh, hey, by the way, she ultimately joined the Obama administration. So it wasn't like a lot of these injustices are not actually Joe Arpaio's fault, because they're not even in his goddamn jurisdiction.
Well, but surely, Razor, he's a bigot because he went with Steven Seagal, and I'm sorry, I can't do this. He went with Steven Seagal and he bulldozed the house of some poor Mexican person because he was Mexican and he hates Mexicans. Isn't that true?
Well, that's the thing. The initial, I talked about this in my Arpaio rant, but the initial legislation that he was shit-canned basically for continuing to support. I know, crazy fucking concept, defending the voters when the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals shits on our fucking heads without any electoral oversight. But he, that actual legislation, he didn't support it. He was part of a sort of combine along with jolly old John McCain and Janet Napolitano and a bunch of hacky establishment types who were all opposing this bill. And that was the first draft of the bill. That one was overturned almost in its entirety, except for the voter ID provision, which the Supreme Court said we could do, but the state just kind of conveniently forgot that we're allowed to do. So now they don't ask for fucking ID at the polls, even though it is now constitutionally guaranteed. Fuck you very much. But anyways, so
you should check IDs at the polls. I just want to say this before I cut everybody else loose like they should be. No, man, I've searched Google. I searched Bing. I put in Bill Maher, Joe Arpaio, Bill Maher, Joe Arpaio at the thing, and for whatever reason, they do not want us to see that footage.
It's there. Yeah, there was 2 episodes. The first one you can find on YouTube. That's the normal episode. That
I've got that one. Yeah, I've got that one pulled up. I've got the one that's at his studio.
Yeah, but I remember watching this vividly when I was a kid, and this motherfucker is like standing and pointing in their faces, like he is just not. He is not cowed in the least. And if you want to know why he got elected 5 times, there's your goddamn answer. It was, but there was a number of disinformative stories. Like, for example, I've seen this one fucking making the rounds like crazy. This one gets around like Jack Kerouac. He once referred to Tent City as a concentration camp.
A concentration camp.
Yeah,
I looked into that. I couldn't find where he came from that, but no, I think at least my point of contention with the men is mostly just the fact that the tent city, the place where they kept all of the overflow prisoners, it was in the middle of Arizona, and as you probably are aware, Arizona gets pretty hot in the summer to the point where you feel like you're dying, right? I mean, no one really wants to be out there, and yes, these people are criminals, but that does cause health complications.
Would there have been a better place to put it?
Yeah. I have no idea. Maybe?
I don't know. Let Razorfist answer for all of Arizona and Joe Arpaio and Maricopa County. Would there be a better place to put it, Razorfist?
No, I mean, I had a friend who served time at Tent City, who actually, here's a fantastic comparison. We actually had this discussion. He first served in Iraq, then had, as a result of like a minor conviction, he had to spend a little bit of time at Tent City. Let me tell you, compared to the other indoor prisons, it was considered a fucking resort. Prisoners regularly requested to be transferred there. There were no cells, so you had free range of movement. You were regularly hydrated. You stayed cool with motherfucking misters. I don't even have misters on my goddamn porch. They had misters, these motherfuckers. And that Soros puppet Penzone wants to say, oh, well, the circus has officially left town because we took down the tents. No, circus just got here, as evidenced by the fucking chimp in the sheriff's uniform.
Well, would one of the benefits of having it where it was be that it doesn't rain there?
It does rain occasionally, but that's the thing.
I would just think if you have a tent city, and when you see sort of refugee camps, one of the main problems tend to be it gets muddy and water gets everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. It does not rain much, so it is essentially like you have a fence, right? It's actually minimum security, believe it or not. That's the hilarious part of this that's been lost in all this. They think this was fucking Auschwitz. It was one fence and like army tents. That's the thing. Like, we send our soldiers to fucking Baghdad, where it's like 100 gajillion degrees. It gets even hotter than here. And it's not a dry heat all the time. It's always a dry heat here. And
you mean to say there were no machine gun towers?
Yeah, you are fine with plenty of cold water and misters. You know, that's just how it works.
So
Well, yeah,
to me, it sounds like
I'm
it's an
looking at this from the
absolute.
perspective. Sorry.
No, go on, you go.
I'm looking at this from the perspective of someone who lives in the Midwest, who's not used to like 120-degree weather, who would probably melt away in 120 degrees. So to me, I just feel like that would just kill.
No, it's simply a matter of you. Number one, if you live here, you're fucking used to it, and number two, you're in shade constantly. You're not forced to go outside of the shade, and you're constantly supplied with water, and there's fucking misters going off. So
I've got to go with what you said, Razor. If I had a choice between living inside of a stuffy, enclosed cell with a bunch of other dudes sweating and crapping and pissing and whatever they do,
in an outdoor, what is effectively an outdoor bunkhouse with a fucking roof on it.
I would beg to be out there. That's my.
They do. They absolutely do. It's really not. And by the way, at that concentration camp remark, that was at a news conference where the press were jokingly referring to it being criticized as such, as a concentration camp. Like, I understand John Oliver couldn't find a punchline with a GPS and a goddamn dowsing rod, but I'm certain that Howdy Doody Doppelganger dipshit wouldn't appreciate a comment.
No, that was a retort where he said, well, at least I have my own concentration camp now. That was a retort from people firing all this at him. I've got my own feelings about Joe Arpaio, but most of it comes, Razor, from the food they feed him. In fact, all of mine does. I mean, I just know the caliber of food they give when he was in charge, specifically that they gave the Maricopa County, and that's it. I mean, I would say that put him in a tent, give him whatever, put him wherever you can, but feed him well. I don't know if you know anything about that, or if you care to comment on it.
I don't even know that he had jurisdiction over the food because he's not in charge of the prison system. So all of that would come from commissary. And the person in charge of commissary was licking our governor's snatch trap.
Oh, okay.
Who would the people actually be who were in the camp? I mean, you know, a hell of a lot was conflated because we always heard about Arpaio and the camp, and then we also heard about illegal immigrants. So
not camp, Britisher, not camp.
They like it that way.
I had this image of basically lots of illegal immigrants being held in that camp until they were repatriated.
And that's the way they like it. That's the way they like it. No, the people in Tent City, you're getting minor offenders. Like I said, because it's minimum security. It's fucking DUIs. It's people who beat their kids. You know, it's domestic violence situations. I mean, I had a coworker once who served weekends at Tent City because it was suspected he beat his kid or something. He was arrested right in the middle of work one day. It was pretty awesome. But he was a douche. But he served weekends at Tent City. So they literally have weekend sentences. I don't remember hearing about weekend sentences at fucking Mauthausen. Do you? Like, I don't know. But and then they hit you with well, a guy died one time. First off, like, people die in prison every fucking day. The vast majority of natural causes.
Well, they hit you with more than that, Razor. They hit you with the highest concentration of suicide is in Tent City. I just seen that. I don't know if you've heard that.
That's horseshit. There's no fucking way that's factual. Because here's why that might be true. Because it's minimum security. Because you have more implements at your disposal to commit suicide if you are so predisposed to do so. So I don't necessarily doubt that, but it has nothing to do with the conditions at fucking all.
So in other words, the greater freedoms that they're allowed may contribute correlationally to well, I mean, that's one way to see it. I would just say this: I don't have my feelings are really neutral. Because I believe that people should be treated humanely, but like we've already said, I really don't know. Tent City to me,
but if you consider pink underoos and misters and a regular supply of ice cold water to be rampant mistreatment, I mean, what the fuck is your metric for
what anyone's worried about in terms of mistreatment?
Such as what? Because the person who died there his family resoundingly goddamn failed to prove that Arpaio had, number one, anything to do with it, and that any of the events actually occurred. In fact, they lost their case, and the only witness testimony came from an inmate who was copping to such, first to local reporters, then to law enforcement, in, you guessed it, exchange for a lighter sentence. That's where all this shit comes from. And the Phoenix New Times, again, who were busted for child trafficking in an investigation that Arpaio started, all they've done is pile up all these stories. No one vets them. This is the problem. They went on this long, rambling Twitter jag where they listed off all these stories. He once called it a concentration camp. The food was so awful, X, Y, and Z. He was once caught on camera saying this. Of course, they don't mention that the reporter specifically set up a situation where that could be the only response that he could have.
Well, the New Times points now, Razor, to I'm sure you're aware that kind of portly reporter that was there with Antifa and kind of followed them for a distance, and so they keep pointing to that. Like, but I'm aware. So the New Times is, what would you say, they're left leaning? I guess is what I'm getting at, because they keep touting that thing where they were showing Antifa, and I think you know what I'm talking about. The guy was telling them that, no, I'm documenting this. And they come and like threaten the New Times, but they are a left-leaning publication. Would you say?
Before we move on to that bit, can I just make a point which I feel that everybody's kind of glossing over?
Go ahead.
Which is, everybody keeps on going, "Oh, the food that was served is bad," but I'm sorry, but they're serving it to prisoners. As long as it's nutritional, does it really matter if it's bad? As long as it's not going to make you poison, like give you food poison, does it really matter if they're prisoners?
Well, can I just cut in quickly, because I think common sense will agree with me here that, I mean, in Britain, the police commissioner of a particular policing area would not have anything to do with the running of a prison.
No, definitely not.
He just arrests the people. He then hands them over to the court system. Then the court system deals with them, and then the court system dispatches them off to be held in some facility. So,
well, actually, I'd like to change that.
I'm still completely at a loss as to how Sheriff Arpaio is connected to Tent City.
That's the thing. It was a detainment. It wasn't even a proper prison. That he could only do what he had the jurisdiction to do. So what he did was make a minimum security facility, because that's all it's his job to do. There's a head of the prison system in the state of Arizona.
Okay. So this
any
was some
of the iniquities that people are talking about with bad food and people dying in prisons and all this horse shit is, frankly, the person running the prison system is far more culpable than Joe Arpaio, who is only the sheriff of one county, not even one of the bigger counties.
So was this some kind of detention facility that he was organizing so that he had somewhere to detain people until they kind of went off to court?
In some cases, in most cases, it was just a minimum security, I got a light misdemeanor sentence kind of a place. And it was an option. It was an option for people who didn't want to do time in prison and be subject.
Was he actually running it?
Yeah, he opened it. He opened it, but again, he was subject to the same rules as any other prison, which, by the way, was a huge point of contention.
Was he running it in his authority as a sheriff, or was he just basically running this as a private prison?
I don't know. He was running it. The actual Maricopa County Sheriff's Department had jurisdiction over it, but it was, again, it was subject to the same regulations and rules that any other prison was, and was part of the Arizona prison system. So you had.
My wife was trying to get your attention, but it's just because I told you she watches you at lunchtime at the hospital. But did you notice our dog, who we keep as a prisoner, is right now in heat, and we are making her wear pink undies.
Oh goodness! and she's I'm sure she's
forcing her to wear, and we feed her dog food too.
I believe there is a term for that: cruel and unusual punishment.
We're talking about the dog, or are we still talking about?
No, and you know what? I did a thing, man. If you look too deep, you could see that I was pandering to you, Razor, because I have my own feelings about Tent City, but I have my own feelings about the way we handle inmates when they're guilty until proven innocent. There should be something that goes on when someone is accused of a crime, but they're not guilty of any crime. And so this could be a murder. Everybody says, well, what if they're murdered? What? No, I don't. At that point, they should have a soft bed. I'm not saying they should be able to get up and leave, but I just, and most of the people in Tent City and a lot of other places, worse than that, like Miami-Dade County, you know, they're just, it's just this horrible situation. But that's my social justice warrior side. That is it. Because as Americans, we incarcerate too many bloody people.
That's not social justice warrior, bro. That's perfectly in line with the founding fathers. There's a reason God, to bring the English among us into the discussion, there was a time when the English court systems were guilty until proven innocent, right? That was the way they worked. Yeah. Today, basically, when America was founded, they made a conscious decision to invert that. That was not accidental. The argument there, I'm going to do a video about this at some point, was that we would rather let a guilty person go free than run the risk of convicting an innocent person.
Well, remember when there was a probable cause and the cop couldn't sit in your driveway and print out his own search warrant and all these things? There was only hot pursuit. When a cop was in hot pursuit, and I'm not saying Q, Roscoe Pico train, hot pursuit. I mean the legal definition. They are chasing you and you run into a domicile. That's all gone out the window. The idea of freedom, and here's the reason. It's like, oh, but you just said it, mate. Oh, but some criminals will get loose and will get away. I don't care if every serial rapist, murderer, and child molester on earth gets free, as long as we have liberty.
Yeah, and I mean, some of the punishments, some of the penalties, once they're convicted, I think can be laughable at times. Like, there's a conversation to be had there, but up until the point where they're convicted, they're innocent to me. You know, that's where my full-blown libertarian side comes out. And to me, especially because once you're involved in like a district court situation, or even with the Supreme Court, you're dealing with someone who is not beholden to electoral will. This is someone who is 2 generations removed from our electoral process. And if you really analyze it, a deeply anachronistic holdover from the British class system. Because it has nothing to do with democracy. They're not subject to peer review whatsoever. They're beholden to whoever the pissant politician is that appointed them to fucking begin with. That's, when you break that down, that's pretty anti-democratic, actually. It's pretty elitist. And there's an entire branch of government that is structured around that. So,
well, but now we not only get people. I
just would like to interject something very briefly. I don't want to go into it in depth. I just want to interject a brief. I don't think it was the Americans who invented innocent until proven guilty.
I didn't say that it was. I was just
inverting it from a British system that was guilty until proven innocent. But I'll just leave it there.
No, they didn't. You understand what I mean? No, they decided to take that system and consciously invert it. They weren't the first to do so. But
what do the people that were up against care? Because here's the big deal.
Yeah.
Not only will they not listen to anyone that would sacrifice security for liberty deserves neither. They won't only not listen to that. They won't listen to you have the right to freedom of speech, the freedom of religion and expression, and to gather together, and you know, to be a Nazi, with all due respect to anyone that hates Nazis, myself included. You have these rights. Not only won't they listen to that you have the right to be offensive. I mean, it's to me.
Unless you're PewDiePie dropping a racial slur on a live stream, right?
Well, we're going to talk about that later. I think the Britisher is going to broach that, and we'll hammer on this forever. And you know what, Razor, before you leave, I kind of would like to let everybody hit every one of these topics. Thank you so much, Jones, on that one. I tell you what, you presented a good side, because we're not here to all agree. We don't even know, Razor, I mean by we, Razor doesn't even know which one of us has decided to take which topic and on which side. We would just like to see what people think. That's the end result. If I offend Razor, I don't know. It would suck if he never came back on another live stream. But you know what? I mean, in the end, because I don't want to get all crazy. I'm not going to say.
Motherfucker, I was on the Drunken Peasants podcast. You think I give a fuck?
No, I see that too. Man. Hell, you were on this one before, and I was a little crazy in the beginning. You were, I think, our first or second big guest, and I was a little nervous. So anyway, there we go. So I don't know if there's any last little tidbits on this topic. If not, who's got the next topic?
I actually have one last thing to say.
Yeah, rock and roll, girl.
Okay, so with regard to the prison food, as a woman who got out of public high school not too long ago, I can say that is not an issue. I mean, like, if you can stomach high school food, you can stomach prison food. Let's just say that, because school food is prison food, essentially.
Yeah, the bland. Imagine the blandest cafeteria meal you've ever had. You know, where they have the rubbery, obviously frozen 5 minutes ago vegetables, and
talking about English food.
Yes, pub food.
Well, let's not forget the very square pizzas that you wonder if they just dug off the juvenile delinquents peeling bananas in the freaking street their tires. Let's not forget that.
Oh,
wilted lettuce
of haute cuisine.
And just want to say, hey, Razor, been watching your stuff for a long time. I love when you and Taryn Gell do the game stuff. I usually chime in.
No. Hang on, Zero. Now look, I've got it marked out when we're going to kiss his ass. It's later on. I've got it. It's already mapped out. If you notice, if you got a show map, we have already designated the ass kissing spot. Just hold all the ass kissing until then.
But I did want to say on a more topic related thing. It's kind of funny that personally, I think the whole Arpaio thing was a bunch of BS. Iowa could use a few sheriffs like that, especially here in the Quad Cities. But really, if you want to think about it, people that are in jail, no matter whether it's minimum or maximum security, they're getting better treatment than our vets, which, if you really want to have the social justice warriors get off their flagpoles and do something about that, do something about the people that protects them. But I guess that would actually hurt them too much to think that far ahead, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
My daughter is in her second week of basic training for the Air Force, going into the medics field. And thank you. And I just, I'm proud she's doing what she's doing, protecting the fine folks that I get to talk with today, especially Razor and Taryn Gell. Love you guys. But it just makes me cringe that if there's some possible future where her medical gets denied because of whatever, and yet somebody comes in, starts a problem, and they're getting treated better than she is.
Oh, and here's the best part. They're not even a citizen. There's
precisely.
That's the only reason Arpaio wound up focusing on the illegal immigration issue. He didn't, like I said, he initially opposed the legislation that was so controversial and wound up going to the Supreme Court. The only reason he started to support it is because he actually witnessed firsthand how effective it was. Because he had noticed overcrowding in the prisons and increasing drug trafficking as a result of illegal immigration. We are extremely proximate to the Mexican border. So you are always going to have the incumbent problems with drug trafficking and so forth that all come from the fact that Mexico is an open-air Mad Max film.
Yeah, no kidding. I would, and I will take my own advice and save my butt kissing about the wall video you made, Why We Need a Wall, where you actually took your glasses off and made a really heartfelt appeal about a really pretty young Mexican girl and how that affected you and how this whole insanity is hurting the Mexican people.
Yeah, that's the part no one. Invariably, my issue with anyone, right or left, is the number one pet peeve is shallow thinking on a topic in terms of like not actually analyzing it from every perspective, or thinking. If you think of it in monetary terms or in numerical terms, they can think of, I find the average sort of university leftist can think about 2 steps into a major issue. What's the problem? Illegal immigration. Okay, step 2. Why is illegal immigration a problem? Well, because they're coming from Mexico and it's bad. Ergo, I should feel bad for them. My thinking's done on the topic. If you think further back, if you pull back for the sort of porno establishing shot, you realize that there's more to the issue than that. You realize that the policies of the DREAM Act, which thank God Trump just overturned, the DREAM Act and so forth, all of these things are actually deepening Mexico's despair because they are They are tacitly ratifying a policy that is killing the Mexican people. It's guaranteeing that Mexico will continue to suffer through poverty and cartel violence and death and dismembered corpses found in warehouses as a result of cartel violence, people hanging from underpasses. I mean, this is what the cartels are doing in Mexico, and it's because you've taken the entire lower middle class, the class that are poor enough to be mad about the situation in Mexico and have enough resources to do something about it. In other words, the potential revolutionary class that could actually affect Mexico, a change in Mexico, that could actually ameliorate the situation, and you have shipped them out to America to vote for Democrats. That's what you've done. Well, you have guaranteed Mexico is a shithole.
I think that's called the brain drain, is it not?
The brain, you call it what you want. I call it the political pressure release valve, because Mexico has been using the border with Arizona, California, Texas, America as a political pressure release valve. You know, in any situation that wasn't
Mexico's not sending their best, you think they're using this?
Well, look, there have been several instances where the government of Mexico has actually encouraged people to illegally emigrate. For all their sort of overtures about how tough the Mexican side of the border is, they took out Vicente Fox, who has been one of Donald Trump's most vocal critics, at one time took out advertisements in Mexican newspapers instructing people to leave the border. There were these kind of propaganda-ish, you know, these portraits, and it was a bunch of people climbing over a border and helping each other across the river. And, you know, then they printed these pamphlets that showed them how, here's where all the water stations are, and here's how you can avoid Border Patrol. And the really controversial part of the pamphlet was, here's how you avoid being taken in by INS once you get to America. You avoid, like, you've got to be fucking shitting me. So Mexico benefits from it, and it really comes down to they don't want their hustle to be fouled up. They want to stay in power. And if those poor people stay there, the pressure builds up. And eventually it would explode in any other country, in a country that isn't having illegal immigration aided and abetted by a moronic political party that has been in power for the last 8 years. It would have exploded into some kind of conflagration, or at least a widespread reform that could easily be mistaken for an armed conflagration. So you have essentially forestalled forever the reform of the country of Mexico and guaranteed that they will never be the great country that they deserve to be.
Man. And they could be a great country. They're rich in resource. They're rich in history. They're rich in unity in a lot of ways. But this dream is being sold. And let's not forget that Vicente Fox is a CEO of Coca-Cola. He is them. He is they.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah, man. He's a member of the 13 families. He is they. He goes to Bilderberger. He's one of the people. Yeah,
are you gonna put the underpants on your head there, Alex?
That was my Alex Jones impression. I was waiting for the Britisher to say, "Really, Mr. Ogre, would you please stop that nonsense, sir?"
I think we did that last night with the aliens.
Oh, let's not bring that up now. We did it. We did it.
Now we're talking about the aliens, so don't worry about it.
Oh Lord, no! Because the next thing you know, Razor, they'll have, if we even mention all that stuff, they'll be like, Razor Fist said there are gray aliens abducting people and turning them into Mexicans.
Oh, Jesus Christ. I did have a serious question, though. What about the delusion that Americans, and I think every American to an extent has this, that we can actually overextend our capabilities in regards to resources, money, and quote-unquote power that we have to take care of the people of Mexico?
Well, that's the American side of the border argument. That's the thing. It's bad for Mexico. It's bad for America too. And if there's one thing that I feel emphasize enough, it was how tremendously destructive it is on the American side of the border too. I grew up in South Phoenix. South Phoenix is Tijuana too, folks. I lost my childhood neighborhood to this. It's not, you don't have to get into drug crime statistics, although you absolutely could, You don't have to get into how gang violence and illegal immigration are connected, or how coyotes who bring these people over leave them to die in a lot of cases, human trafficking, prostitution. You don't have to get into any of that. All you really have to do is get into American neighborhoods near the border. Look at some of the worst neighborhoods in San Antonio. Look at some of the worst neighborhoods in, border cities. Look at Tucson.
Look at Casa Grande.
Tucson is a hipster haven. Tucson should be the Southwest version of Portland, but it's a shitbox. It's an absolute shitbox, and it's because of illegal immigration. Because they vote for the same crap as Portland, Oregon, but Portland, Oregon doesn't have the same demographic shift going on that Tucson does. So they don't have the Portland of the Southwest label going on. And you just wait. The same shit's happening in Austin.
How many of these towns are going to have to feel that before they start to realize that maybe it's not a good idea for us to just give our culture up? Oh, wait, I forgot. We're all white people here. I think we don't have any culture.
Yeah. Well, and you see things. It was pretty amazing. Like growing up in South Phoenix. So like my neighborhood was really good for a lot of years. Then they finished this freeway that connected us more closely with Tucson. And, thereby we basically had a direct pipeline into Mexico. And so within a 4-year period, it went from idyllic to uninhabitable, utterly uninhabitable. There were days we would come back home from a mall and there would be police standoffs across the street. We'd have to sneak into our house through the neighbor's backyard behind us. And the police would tell us to keep away from the windows if we must go in our homes. Whole street would be blocked off. That happened more than once. It happened more than twice, in fact. And we didn't even stay around for it to get really bad. The woman across the street, I told the crazy lady story in my wall video. She was trafficking illegal aliens and drugs across from Mexico and weapons. When they finally gassed her out of her home after a standoff with police, they found hidden compartments everywhere for shipping illegal aliens. This was part of what destroyed my childhood neighborhood. They did.
Yeah, Mrs. Ogre just said she watched that at work just recently. I actually saw that one too. You were saying that you're I know that there's time, but you're kind of glossing over, if that can be said. Didn't she throw bleach in somebody's bloody eyes? I mean,
there was all kinds of crazy shit. We're pretty sure she killed our cat. I mean, there was crazy stuff. This woman was just pure evil. It was pretty crazy.
And I know that was. I mean, you don't seem like a guy with too much of a heart, so I don't want to offend you. But when you say that you think they killed your cat, did they put the bloody cat there, killed?
No. What happened was we had we got this stray cat in, and we just took it in. It was called Mushroom, and the cat had problems occasionally with, I won't get into that, just medical problems. But one day the cat just didn't show up. And we're like, oh, that's weird, because she was actually doing well. Like, we had taken her to the vet, and she was fixed, and she was doing well, had all her shots. And cat doesn't come home. We kept calling her. Cat doesn't come. Cat doesn't come. And this is not, this is not a cat that wanders all around the neighborhood. It would pretty much just hang out in our front yard and in the backyard a little bit. And after a while of not hearing from it, we talked to the neighbor right next to the crazy lady, the town gossip, Mrs. Trout. And she's telling my mother that, mind you, I'm a really small child at this point. She's telling my mother that she saw the crazy lady out in front of her house gathering up neighborhood cats in a gigantic cage. And so you have to understand, Phoenix has like a canal system. There was a canal. There's a canal immediately behind our house, and the canal is where all the irrigation comes from. That's how we have green lawns and so forth. So all of the water from the canal comes into our front yards. So one day I'm helping my dad with yard work. Again, I'm small, but not that small. I'm like 7 or 8. And all of a sudden I look down in the little irrigation ditch in our front yard, and there's a cat skeleton. Oh. So 10-1, she took that cage and chucked it in the canal, just because she was annoyed by the neighborhood cats or whatever.
Damn, man. Well, and I hate to take it on that deep side of that, and we could go on. We really can go on to the next topic here. I think that who's got the next one? In fact, you know what, Brett? Let's not even
the topic of cat murder. I think that's the moment to move on. Yes.
Yeah, and you know what, John McCain, we just pounded good old razor fist like a rented mule, man, for all this time on Jar Pio. This might be something that's a little more
coming, whereby he will draw a parallel and suggest that one throws John McCain in the canal.
Yeah, right. So, you know what? Let's skip that one if everybody's in some sort of agreement, and if not, well, Britt, just go ahead on with your little topic here. Let's see what he thinks about it.
Well, I mean, you call it my little topic. It's very much Razor's little topic, and that is the YouTube blacklist, because you put out a rather interesting video in that regard, whereby you conducted a little experiment. Perhaps you could take it from there.
Yeah, it was pretty basic. I was hit with mass demonetization on my channel one day. And I was like, well, that's kind of weird. Like, it was all random shit. You know, I understand I'm offensive, but I do have videos that don't have swearing in them. I do have videos that are largely not that offensive. And I have videos that are just like edited footage together. There's not even opportunity for swear words.
What about me? None of them offend me, but go ahead.
So I'm like, and these are being flagged by this automated system, this algorithm. And I'm like, this doesn't seem, something about this doesn't jive. It's not the words. It's not, you know, because the titles are all different. They all have different tags. Some of them didn't. I hadn't even updated the tags since 2009, so they're still in like blocks of words, and like I need to update them and shit. So something about it just didn't make sense. And I'm thinking, well, maybe it pours over your verbiage, but that doesn't make any sense either, because number one, if anyone's ever checked out auto-generated subtitles, you know how accurate that shit is. And number two, because what was that look? No, number one, I doubted the efficacy of the auto-generated subtitle system and so forth, and yeah, number two, it just seemed like it wasn't really hitting all of the most offensive topics. Like it was ignoring some offensive videos, and it was hitting some videos that were not offensive. So I just decided I was going to try a little experiment, because what started to happen was I would upload a video, and even if it wasn't offensive, like we put up a teaser for Mad Max month that didn't have anything in it. There was just music and some video. And I put that up, and it was instantly demonetized. So I'm like, some fuckery is afoot here. So I just decide to record a video on me going blah 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 on camera, and I give it a completely banal, utterly innocuous title, top 5 video games of 2018 or something, and I upload it. Boom, instantly demonetized. Instantly. Before it's even fully processed, instantly demonetized. They had me on a fucking blacklist. They still do. Every single video I put up is automatically demonetized, except for game streams for some reason. I don't know why. Some of them, although some of them, here's the great part.
We got a game stream ready for you in this piece too.
Some game streams are automatically flagged before they go live.
I have a point to make about that. Like 2 of my live streams 20 minutes before they actually do go live do get demonetized, and I think I actually know the reason why this is. Do you do auto tags, and do you put your name in the tags?
Yep.
Yeah. One of my friends, the Ranting Monkey, he proposed a theory that they have specific tag words on a blacklist of sorts, and that anything that fills those tags gets demonetized automatically.
Yeah. Yeah, and I thought that was the case, but when I conducted the experiment, there was nothing offensive in the tags. It was literally video games, something. You know, it's totally. I'm sorry, what?
Was your name in the tags?
Nope. Left my name out of the tags. Actually, I specifically did it for that reason, because maybe in some profane hipster inferno, fist has a sexual connotation. So maybe I'll just leave my name out of there. Maybe I'll leave rage. That's controversial. Maybe I'll just leave that out of there. So the video that I uploaded didn't have either of those terms in there, and it was flagged immediately anyway. So I knew something was up. It's not just the tags. It's not just the titles. They're putting entire channels on an Insta review basis. If someone controversial puts up a video, it's auto flagged. Just period.
Well, see, that's kind of odd because I was on a Rodimus Primal's channel watching him do a live stream, and he's very mellow. He doesn't cuss. He just plays games, and everybody chimes in. And yet they flagged him for no reason, and he's not even remotely on your level of verbal usage. He loves just to do the 80s stuff about Transformers and G.I. Joe and all that fun. And they're slapping him left and right for demonetization.
No. People, they're hitting. I didn't mean to suggest that it's only happening to those people.
What should we be flagged for? I mean, I've got to play this. And listen, we're not going to use this. We talked about this before the stream, Razor, and we're not going to try to be gratuitous. We, again, like we were saying with some other topics, we last thing we want is for somebody to take snippets and be like, Razor Fist of Rageaholic says that there are alien people that live underneath the White House and tell Donald Trump what to do. You know,
which of course there are, but you know.
And it may be the facts, but this, I mean, it plays into this. What should be flagged? So we've all seen this. It's the talk of the day. Check this out.
What a fucking nigger. Jeez, oh my God. What the fuck? Sorry, but what the fuck?
I mean, is that enough? Is that what does it? Is that the thing that, you know, is there, I don't even know what else to say. My heart bleeds because they already hit PewDiePie with the same kind of thing you're talking about right now. With this, he's automatically a racist. What? Because he's Scandinavian and got blonde hair and he's, you know, like a handsome, like a skinnier Dolph Lundgren? What, why? You know?
Well, it's because he's the biggest YouTuber on an alternate media website.
Yeah, and so he says that he uses this word. And I'm going to say again, we have no censorship here, but I am actually in this situation. I have snippets of TheBritisher using the word in question, and myself too. But in this situation, I'm actually going to try to be a little careful, only for a sense of a point. That it is ridiculous, man. This is beyond 1984. It's beyond racism. Anyway, there you go. There's my 15 cents.
So it's just a word. It only has power because they keep giving it power. You make it like this thing that you're not allowed to say. So idiotic 10 and 11-year-olds have to say it all the time. And sometimes that 10 and 11-year-old mentality can carry over into adulthood, especially when you're in the middle of playing a video game and somebody does something you weren't expecting. Who gives a fuck?
Oh, so edgy.
Well, that also becomes the thing of the hypocrisy of the whole issue. As I put in the side note, I was going to ask you, Razor, hasn't basically PewDiePie been a target since day one for the most part because he is literally the biggest YouTuber on the planet at this point in time?
Oh,
Right. And secondly, I occasionally post stuff up where the Boondocks, they use that word, Aaron McGruder being who he is, and he's a liberal, uses that word like 20 million times in his cartoon. Nobody flinches an eye. And I love McGruder's stuff, but it's the hypocrisy of, oh, it's okay for this group of people to say this over here, but yet these people over here can't say it. Now in Iowa, we have a large group of basically black, white, Asian, and Latinos. We say whatever we want because we're farm boys and farm girls and football players, and we don't care. We're not really leftists for the most part. But it's just baloney. And I think they're, again, if it's this point over here, they're just targeting people because they feel that the ads are, need to be for this or need to be for that. And that's what the companies want. And as Styx Hexenhammer said, they had a very simple solution, and people can agree with me or not. That's cool. Use specific ads for specific videos. And that way the demonetization issue isn't really an issue, especially over this word, which I can hear 15 times a day just going into the local grocery store and nobody takes it personally.
And I wish they would do that anyway because I don't trust YouTube kids. And then I get upset when I set my kid up on videos that I know are safe on YouTube and he's just watching a playlist of that. And all of a sudden I look over, there's an ad for a freaking horror movie going and there's chainsaws and blood. And I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah.
Don't you know
the thing that I can't abide with this situation is YouTubers who owe their very existence to freedom of speech and freedom of expression and freedom of edginess who are jumping on the bandwagon. I defended Bill Maher, who I disagree with in every way. I did a whole video defending him when he dropped this fucking word.
Exactly.
Just a few months ago. And now they're coming for PewDiePie for doing the same guy. It is simplicity itself. if you're a comedian, pundit or otherwise, you either support racy punchlines or you have officially become one yourself.
George Carlin is spinning in his grave.
Yeah.
Yes.
But sadly, political bias won't permit many to actually make that synaptic connection. I mean, Jim Resist Sterling, when he isn't busy failing miserably at resisting the clarion call of carbohydrates, is busy grandstanding on the subject. I prey on something that's titanium reinforced.
I actually have to correct something. George Carlin is not spinning in his grave. He spun once, put himself ass up, and now he's just laughing at the rest of us because he's dead and we're not.
Good old George.
Well, here's the thing about that, to go back to something. It's the fact that, you know, that's fine. You don't like Bill Maher. I don't like him either. But it's also the point where you and Steven Crowder and Styx Hexenhammer have basically, you know, amongst many other people, have basically said the alternative media, which is this, is now overpowering the legacy media, and Bill Maher and those guys are part of the legacy media. And a guy like PewDiePie, who's not an American, not a, you know, from the UK or whatever, he's basically saying, hey, look what I can do. You can't touch me, to an extent, and they have no power over him.
And let's not badmouth Bill Maher too much, because it's obvious that Razor Fist has patterned his entire shtick off of Bill Maher. So
no, that wasn't Bill Maher. That was
everybody says Dennis Miller, but I personally
Dennis Miller. But my point is,
I was just being a dick.
Everybody's brought it up to the fact that a person like PewDiePie is the king of alternate media to an extent, on a certain level. They can't handle that, and that's why they're getting bent out of shape. And it's not specifically the ads, because I'll say something, Razor. I love your Striper review. I was a Striper fan back in the day, still am, and you even mentioned point blank, yes, they do use swear words. You know, if you don't like it, that's just the way it's going to be. And people who are hardcore Christians still loved your review, even though you swore. So that really goes to show that the AI and the algorithms are a bunch of baloney that YouTube is using, because they don't want to differentiate intentionally.
Yeah, no. It brings me, you know, it brings you back. It doesn't make any sense for a YouTuber to defend this kind of censorious nonsense, because, like, you look, we were just talking about Sterling. This motherfucker's made Jap jokes, engaged in hentai humor. Like, spoiler alert, you fucking landmass. If Big Brother were appointed the arbiter of wrongthink, the thought police would be about 3 feet into your fucking colon right now. Like, all I can say is I hope they brought spelunking gear. But, like, as I've said it before, I find PewDiePie about as gut-bustingly hilarious as the ass cancer ward at Sloan Kettering. You know, for me, this dude has the unbridled allure of a school shooting. But I will fight for his right to make the hackiest jokes in history, because hapless fuck that I am, I'd appreciate if others did the same for me the next time I make a joke about babies with butthole tumors. So, you know, you can't have a double standard on this.
You really think it's also a generational issue? I mean, I'm a Gen Xer, and when I was going to high school, we got yelled at for wearing Iron Maiden t-shirts, to say the least, but we still wore them, and we did our detention. But if, you know, again, if we had a problem, we took it outside of the flagpole at 3 o'clock. We didn't cry.
Yeah, but we're beginning to resurrect that kind of moral puritanism, sadly. and those people, what's happened now is the people who told you to take off your Iron Maiden shirt are now running the fucking asylum.
Oh yeah, it's like Batman. It's like Batman being the inmate and the Joker and Two-Face running Arkham. Pretty much.
Tipper Gore, though. I mean, it's because these people have evolved. What it's become is they've transferred from something that's widely now accepted, you know, rock and roll music, whatever, all this stuff, to now they're shifting to something else that they can find moral outrage in.
Yep.
I mean, who here remembers Tipper Gore? The PMRC and Blackie Lawless of Wasp, man, you know, LOVE, all I need's my love machine, coming into the bloody court with a cod piece that had a face on it with a penis coming out of its mouth and saying, yeah, I'm Blackie Lawless of Wasp. I'm a performer. You know, I don't anyway. Yeah, but you gotta love Blackie in there. That's it. Yeah. The whole thing is killing me because PewDiePie, this is what I believe too. I'm going to try to get a little deep as I did with TheBritisher. At least I think it is. This is a slip. It's a Freudian slip. this guy is constantly, everybody thinks I'm a Nazi, I'm a blonde haired, like I said before, all these things that he is. Everybody thinks that I can't say this word, I can't say this word, I can't say this word. And then boom, if you listen to how it was even done, it was definitely not racist or any of these things. It seemed to me that it was a slip of the tongue. And if, you know, I don't want to assign blame, because there's no blame, because to me, there's no blood, no foul. I mean, good gracious, it's a word. But if there was any kind of, I guess, ambiguous blame to assign, for me, it would be on the people that have put this in his mind to the point where it bloody slips out this way. And they're the same folks that will strike everything you ever do. I watched that Razor where you did to like ho-hum and was looking at a comic book and moving things. There was nothing there. And then they struck your video down. So I don't know.
Can I just sort of point out, because when we actually listen to it, he isn't actually calling a person nigger, is he?
No.
No, he's just saying the
so
word.
Effectively, it's used as an expletive. In the context in which it is used as an expletive. So he could just as well have used any other swear word.
Which is why when he corrected himself, he said asshole. And then people are like, oh, so, you know, now you're just connecting that word to asshole. But yes, that's all it is now. It's just a cuss word. Get over it. Nobody cares.
Well, that's the problem. They don't want to get over
it. In the age of the internet, to be feigning outrage over any fucking profanity whatsoever. I mean, look, a lot of what drives viewership to PewDiePie is the same thing that drives people to, you know, edgelord foundries like fucking 4chan. They make a lot of the same kind of meme jokes. They make the same kind of... You see way more offensive shit over at 4chan. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's really what's happened. You've created an internet culture where you can't shock anyone anymore. So they're going to use words like this.
I mean,
go ahead.
Sorry, I'm not going to mention the page we're not supposed to mention, but rules 1 and 2, and if you know that you don't want to go there, you'll definitely lose your soul.
Well, you can only do so much. As like I said, you can only see so much ridiculous gay porn and bestiality and these things, bloody messes of people being hacked up. I mean, I've been on 4chan myself, the POL. And it's all, it is maybe a shock factor, but who's the fun governor? Who's the person that doesn't say that there are the kids out there that when I was young, it was My Bloody Valentine and Friday the 13th. You know, you always had those kids in class that just couldn't wait for the next hack and slash because they wanted to be that, they wanted that titular excitement. What kind of purity, you know, what kind of world are we living in where people just can't have that? And damn what they say, damn the words they say. That's their business.
Oh, we're living in the kind of world where they put out a little PSA thing, memo that I don't know what to call it, but it's out on the internet saying your kids might be racist if they're listening to heavy metal music. They're all these things that just kids do. Like, what the fuck?
And that's straight from the Tipper Gore playbook. You know, I mean, they're the PMRC now. They've lost their, everybody always, whenever you point out that Tipper Gore was a Democrat and Al Gore a Democrat who was in Congress at that time was the only reason the PMRC had any political traction whatsoever, they'll always hit you with, yeah, but the vast majority of people who were part of the PMRC were all Republican housewives and so forth. And it's like, okay, maybe you have an argument there. Now they don't. Now they don't, because now it's Sarkeesian. Now Zoe Quinn is the police, the arbiter of your fucking entertainment. Okay? It's not only left, it's avowedly so. It's borderline goddamn red. You know, so it really has. If there's been any kind of partisan flip, it's been culturally. It's been this idea that the left want to police everything you fucking see and hear.
So we're talking about the hall monitors. We're talking about the volunteer hall monitors of life.
They're the mall cops of entertainment.
Yeah.
They write names down when the teacher leaves.
In that regard, hasn't it flipped? That basically, not too long ago, the hall monitors were in fact the religious right. And they basically sort of imposed their sort of version of Puritanism.
Well, yeah, Brett,
flipped to the other political side.
think about this Mother Nature thing with Irma Britisher. We were just talking about it. And you got this Jennifer Lawrence coming out talking about Mother Nature, the benevolent god of the new left, has caused Irma to sweep up the coast of the red state of Florida. It's a bloody sweep. Oh,
and it's hilarious because it comes like a week after Hurricane Harvey and Kirk Cameron making that moronic statement that, oh, the hurricanes just they're God's way of making us humble. And then and everybody jumped on it. Everybody in the left was like, what a loony creationist cunt flap. What a fucking nut job. And then fucking Eve Lawrence says the exact same thing, but from a fucking pagan perspective, let's be honest. Oh my God, Gaia Earth Mother hates fucking Trump. That's essentially her statement. And they leap to her reflexive defense.
It has to do with the in-group, out-group kind of mentality that people hold.
Come on, it has to do with tip privilege.
Well, yeah, that too. That and she gets paid to be naked and blue for a living.
That's
right.
Well, let's just remember one thing, that while Harvey and Irma are going on, what is our president doing? He's actually showing gumption like he's supposed to. Now, call me old and if my memory's gone, but what exactly did Obama do during Irene? Yeah, I thought so. He played golf, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. Saying, I don't want to compare the two people on this. I will just say this. Could we all agree on one thing? If you use weather and say it's retribution for some ambiguous god that exists in your own fucking mind, you are expelled from the roles of humanity forthwith. Can we agree on that?
Yeah, sure.
No, say whatever the fuck you want, but I'm going to think you're stupid.
Yeah, your opinion no longer matters to me.
Exactly. I mean, it's just insane. And look, as I roll this fat hooter here, Razor, we'll probably cruise on into the last topic because I hope to have you here until the bitter end, man. I don't want to call it that. That was so stupid. Till the wonderful end. And as the Common Sense guy would say, the end is always good because it's really just the beginning. The beginning is the end.
Yeah, just ask a Vietnamese masseuse.
That's the happy ending. And anyway, I think that's what you were getting at. But you know what, man? All of this stuff, how academic is that? All the things that we're talking about, the topics that we're perusing tonight. Here's the important thing to me, that we don't give in. And I'll pick somebody from the right because I'm constantly being blamed of being a righty pundit that doesn't care. But if we listen to the ghost of Richard Nixon tell us we can't let these Jews and niggers get together and smoke marijuana and read books, well, then we're going to be in trouble because we should all get together.
Richard Nixon fucking say that?
Yeah, it was in the Whitewater tapes, man. That's a direct quote. It's a paraphrase. It's a paraphrase. I'm not sure he used the N-word, but he did say we can't let these hippies and Jews get together and smoke pot and read books. That's a quote.
Wow.
And
hold on, Whitewater tapes? So he was part of that crooked land deal in Arkansas?
Sure, I mean, yeah, you know what I mean. I told you I was rolling a doobie. Maybe look stupid on my own stream. It's cool. It's good. It's easy.
The contact high from an unlit
Whitewater. Well, it's all a water. It's all a water now, right? It's like the something gate. It's all a gate. I should say. It's all a gate. So it's for me.
As long as
I believe this was Doobie Gate.
Doobie Gate. Yeah, that was my Doobie Gate. That was excellent, Brett. And you know what? I bulldozed right over my bro right on the last thing he was saying, and I wanted to get my point across and be fucking cool for the audience so bad that I just talked right over him. So to my own penance, who's got the last topic here? I really want to get your take on this idea of what's going on right now with the zeitgeist. Is that too new of a word to use? The zeitgeist is being put forth by the media right now that, in our country, that has to do with our leader. Who's got this last one? Doobie Gate.
Yeah,
I guess the ogre has the last one, has he?
I actually think it was Amanda Wolfchild.
I thought I was doing McCain.
No, we skipped that one. So jump on this one, and we'll let.
You skipped McCain with the Arizonan?
Yeah. Well, because we talked about Arpaio so long, man. Like I said, I didn't want to ride you like a stump rope mule all night and make you talk about your own local politics. If it tickles your nad sack, we'll roll right to it. No, go ahead though, Amanda, do that because we lost the Common Sense guy and he had number 5 anyway, and you just got with us.
Well, McCain, he's coming back. He's fighting cancer, but I'm gonna keep No, you're old and you have cancer. Go home. Like, why isn't there an age limit to running the fucking country? Please, somebody tell me this. Dude just had his brain cut on, and now he's gonna go talk to defense. Isn't that what
He
said
voted. No.
What would be the age limit?
This guy voted on our health care this like a day after he had chunks of his brain cut out.
Right. Like, we have an age of retirement in this country. That's the fucking age limit right there.
So, therefore, no Ronald Reagan and no Donald Trump.
Don't care.
Well, because it'd be 68, I think now. No, I'm actually with her. I'm with her. No, if you can't get your wad going before 68.
Donald Trump is 71.
He's like 70 something.
71. He's not gonna hit McCain's age before. And here's the weird thing with McCain. I would say that too. I don't like to hit on the fucking age thing too much with McCain because his mother is still alive.
True.
Holy shit.
I'm not even shitting you. She's over 100.
You're just playing devil's advocate right now because I've seen too much of your shit to know what you think about McCain. So you're not saying that a doddering old, drooling human being that would say, "Oh, Razor, if you would let me once again, I'll
vote him out." Don't vote him out because he's a wizened old Dark Crystal character. Fucking vote him out because he's a shitty politician.
Okay.
And they just chopped on his fucking brain, and he has cancer. Like, why the fuck does he think they cut me up? But let's keep going.
That is the funniest part. It kind of dovetails into the media thing you were trying to transition to, but like the media asking, "What's next for John McCain?"
Yeah.
Like, what's next for the man who just had a massive gray matter removed from his fucking cranium?
The grave is next. A beautiful funeral arrangement of flowers is next for John McCain. With all due respect. I mean, I don't mean.
What do you think? What do you fucking think? An infant blood transfusion and a supplication to Horus. That's what the fuck is next for John McCain.
The whole world in his hand. Don't hold him down. Ageism.
What
the fuck?
No, it isn't.
What kind of Egyptian sand voodoo is coursing through the veins of this venal fuckknob exactly? Even a zombie does a dirt nap if you waste the fucking brain. Yet John Ferratu still walks? Like, how does that work?
Dude, Hillary Clinton was walking around having seizures all the fucking time, Parkinson's and out all over TV, and she's still walking about like she's fine.
See, here's the thing. I think that the reason we don't have an age limit is because theoretically we're supposed to trust the voters that they have their own best interests at heart.
No, they don't. They're stupid.
Exactly. Voters are stupid, but
John McCain obviously doesn't in this case because the man said he would do X, Y, and Z. The guy slipped in my mind. Who's your other senator there in Arizona?
Oh, far worse. Jeff Flake, his point man.
Yeah, Flake.
He of the sideways nose.
Yeah, but they both said that they would do X, Y, and Z, and there's a lot of things that politicians say they're going to do. Some of them you should assume they're going to try. Some of them you should assume are lies, and some of them you should assume they're just going to do. And when it's a Republican saying, "I'm going to do this thing to fight this ridiculous socialized medicine that makes you pay," we pay way more. I mean, I'm not going to go into anecdotal stuff right now. This close to the end of the show. I'm just going to say, yeah, man, McCain is washed up. The next thing on his horizon, Razor, is a bloody funeral mat with flowers and a pretty thing that says John McCain fought valiantly.
And people ask like how he keeps getting reelected. Like, it's really simple, folks. By pretending to be conservative every 4 years, just long enough to get elected, then he makes a Karl Marx costume change.
6 years for that bastard.
Sorry, Karl Marx with a comb-over costume change. When all the low-information Sun City sand mummies that reelected his undead ass stop paying attention, he turns into John McCain.
So you mean the baby boomers?
Yeah, and we know that he actually gets 6 years. That's one of the. I don't know how much it would take to really revamp this stuff. I follow the up-to-date politics, but I'm not a constitutionalist. I never studied that in school too terribly much. Just took political science because I had to, kind of deal. But it seems to me like 2 years for a congressman is short, and 6 years for a senator is long. Congressmen are in perpetual campaign, and senators sit up there and chortle and drink bonded bourbon while they talk about how they're going to skewer young babies
and get paid to fucking be in recess 40% of the fucking year.
I think the concept is supposed to balance itself out.
Yeah, well, that's the problem, and it's strangely enough, the age thing is kind of a holdover from the founding fathers, because they got into this issue toward the beginning of our republic, where the founding fathers were starting to die off, so they were really old, and everybody was like, no, we want the founding fathers to run the country as long as possible, because we don't want these new guys to come up, because we'll wind up with fucking Andrew Jackson. So they were like, no, James Madison, you can't go away. So old people have to be able to serve as senators for fucking ever, and president for forever. So you wind up with some really, really long-lived founding fathers staying in public office long past often what they even wanted to.
So that brings up the issue of term limits. Do we agree that they need to be implemented, or
Trump's already talked about it? I think Trump is gonna push for it at some point. He's not gonna do it in his first term. He's not gonna
do it anyway.
If he thinks he's gonna lose, he might try and shove it in there at the very end, because that'd solve a lot of problems.
But he can't do it anyway. Like
he can't do it unilaterally. No, it would have to be put before Congress, and you think they're gonna vote that one up?
No,
Absolutely.
right. Well, but
No,
maybe Congress, but then it does have to be ratified by the Senate, Razor. That's why I was saying I don't know enough about this.
He's going to end up using that same old Trump card that Bush and Obama that started using, that everybody's like, oh, this is bad, the executive order.
Well, no, executive order.
I think that might be pushing it, though.
Yeah, that wouldn't work for an executive order.
I think
he
might try.
He did set some precedents. I think that's why he pushed for the 5-year lobbying ban for government officials, which to me is still the greatest thing he's done so far as president.
Yes,
it is. You think? Say that one more time. What's the greatest thing?
Fucking the 5-year lobbying ban.
5-year lobbying ban. I agree. We shouldn't have people coming right out of an office and then going to lobby.
A 5-year lobbying ban is effectively a regulation, whereas a term limit upon congressmen or senators, that would effectively be a change to the Constitution.
A law.
Yes, that would be.
Yeah, that would.
I guess it would be. It would be a change.
To be doing that just by the stroke of a signature, a stroke of a pen, that would be a little hubris, wouldn't it?
Adjustments to the Constitution are meant to be very difficult.
Yeah, that's something that, quite frankly, you're gonna need an amendment for that.
Yeah, he couldn't do that. He's ratified by the states. It'd have to go through the states.
Can I, since this is kind of my thing, and we're talking about the Constitution, so it sort of fits in here, gonna go off on a tangent. Why did prohibiting alcohol require an amendment to the Constitution, but prohibiting everything else, they just said, that's illegal. You can't do it.
Well, because technically, wouldn't consuming alcohol, wouldn't that be, I don't know, within your rights as a human being, technically?
Yeah, so is shooting heroin.
So is doing anything else. Like marijuana, people were doing marijuana like crazy back in the day, all over this country, and then they were like, "Oh, now you can't anymore. It's illegal now."
It's lobbyists.
That was it comes down to the 20th century was the century where we found all the nifty loopholes in the fucking Constitution, so we could make laws without asking the voters. Mm-hmm. That was the decade where we decided, hey, the Supreme Court should be able to make laws. Any way we can make a law without actually putting it up for electoral review, let's make that happen.
Wasn't it the Christian suffragettes that implemented the prohibition on alcohol, though, too? Like, they lobbied for that hard.
Oh, the temperance movement.
Yeah.
Yeah, but see, that's what I'm saying is
they also pushed for banning of firearms. They also pushed for women's suffrage. Those two things were not overturned. That's the part nobody likes to talk about. The people who love gun regulations. But, that prohibition, what a dark period in history. Well, folks, it's part of the same fucking legislation, and they never repealed the gun part.
But the temperance movements grew out of the abolitionist movement, didn't it not?
Yes, kind of.
Yep.
Man, the temperance
movement. I was just killed that one. Sorry.
Well, no, it's just proof the busybody brigade wears many faces.
Yes, they always find themselves a different cause. Yes.
Yes. Exactly.
Well, and it is my unfortunate job too to keep this fresh and new, Razor. And as I hope that you can see, I'll pester you about probably every 3 months or so. Why? Well, twofold for me and the Brit. You make us look good, mate. People come and sub
because
to us
like
and
John
stuff.
McCain, you need fresh blood.
Yeah, and then the second big thing is, man, you're a really interesting cat to talk to.
Well, I'm glad to see that the ogre has now removed his sunglasses, because
Yeah, I had to.
otherwise, just by looking at the avatars and the people on screen, one would come to the conclusion that American males all have to wear sunglasses at all times.
Yeah, that's a law.
It's an unwritten law of cool, Brett. It's cool. But so that's, I forgot, Razor, but with you, I'd probably with other folks I may skip over this, but with you I think you're going to be fine here. At the end of our shows, we do church Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Friday on the Brits channel, Monday and Wednesday on mine, blah blah blah. But we wrap up every show, and then this police state's just twice a month. But what we'd like to do is wrap up every show with like a final word. Could be anything, Razor. And in your case, being the guest of honor, you could talk until, I think we got 8 hours on the stream. God help us, I wouldn't go do that, but you could go as long as you would care to. So as we just, I really want to get your take on this, and then we'll probably cruise into that. And without blowing your wad on your final word, what's going on here? We've seen something happen with Obama as Americans, and I'll get flack from the Britisher later for this, but we saw it. A press that was complicit. And when did you see Obama with a Marlboro? When did you see him? The only time you seen him with a beer was when he had the Blue Moon with the beer summit with Joe the plumber, whoever it was. Remember that? The whole deal? Yeah. And he had like the beer
when
summit.
When did you see him badly lit? When did
right, that's what I mean.
When did you see him without a teleprompter when he wanted one?
And right, and then we get this. This is what I get. I won't say who would say this. Really, Mr. Ogre, he must be the greatest orator of modern times, sir. And to that, I say I vehemently disagree. He's
great, fucking fantastic. Let him sell ShamWows. We had a country to fucking save.
Okay, so and there, before I just go on another jag with you and abuse whatever this is, because man, this is great. I'd like to bullshit about this forever, but I want you to let. What is going on? Who controls the media? That's pretty broad, right? Of a question. So let me just narrow it down and say, how do they shift so quickly from saying we can't say anything bad about this president to, my goodness, we better print 98% of our news. It better be this man, and it better be 98% of that bad.
Ideology is the short answer. I mean, Trump could say the sky is blue and trees cast fucking shade. 2020 would run a 5-part fucking expose on how the sky is occasionally pink at sunrise. You know what I mean? No, Barbara Walters, your fucking politics are. The media went all in on Trump's failure, and they rolled snake eyes, which is doubly destructive because, like, conventional media was already dying a slow death in the shadow of the internet before that, which is, this kind of guarantees their eventual demise. So if there's a silver lining there you go. Congratulations. Here's my gift to you. But yeah, to me, that's essentially what's happened is the media banked too hard on Trump failing, and now they're stuck on the edge. They're stuck out. They have stranded themselves out on the edge, and they can't walk it back. They were way too committed to the narrative, and they still are. That's what you're witnessing. Even the New York Times, who published that so-called apology piece the day after the election, where they were like, "Oh, we're going to recommit ourselves to good journalism and so forth. There are some hard questions that we need to ask ourselves, like how hard can we bash this man over the next 8 months?" Is apparently what they asked themselves. If you judge their fucking coverage in the interim.
Well, but I mean, isn't it more of a question of, how do we say, the extent, the level, rather than that they are doing it? Because effectively we know that part of the media, which makes up kind of the motherlode of the media, we know that they have a left-wing bias. So as such, the fact that they would be criticizing Trump is about as surprising as to find out that Fox News quite frequently criticized Obama. So I mean, it's not really that great a surprise. In that regard, the dimensions come about due to the fact that they are just much, they are a much greater proportion of the total media. But I think, so basically that side of it isn't really surprising. What is surprising is the sheer vehemence with which they came out. it didn't really seem to be in any proportion anymore. To a certain extent, even from over here in Britain, one got the feeling that one was effectively watching abject hatred rather than reporting with a slight bias.
Yep. And that's effectively what's happened. Look, they were able to be subtle under Obama because they were holding all the cards. You can tell that Trump, for all the people who always hit me with, oh, Trump's not going to change anything, then why is the media pissed? Why is the establishment so pissed? Why do they devote every waking moment of their miserable fucking lives to taking him down? If he wasn't a threat to the establishment, they wouldn't have to. They wouldn't feel the compulsion. He's from outside the system.
Well, all right. I don't think I wanted the Brit to go here. I don't know if he didn't see the side chat or if he's not willing to go this, but I'm just going to say it like this because I won't be, and again, I was about ready to throw a name out there. I'm not going to be a pundit. Is it possible that this, I mean, I think about Donald Trump and the WWE thing. I mean, look at Donald Trump. He's the man. He's done all these things. He's been in goofy commercials. He's the New York mogul that did the skating rink, the ice skate. I mean, he's done all these things. Does he ask for it? That's the short way to ask it. I mean, is he taunting them to the point where, you know, maybe they would take some of their ire and focus it somewhere else? Is that naive to think that?
That's not going to happen, number one. And number two, if he's brought it on himself at all, you could perhaps make the argument that he's been fairly expert in finding ways to provoke them at times when it is advantageous to him, so that it refocuses the narrative. So that, because here's the thing, when the media bashes Trump, they have to mention the story that is associated with that bashing. They have to actually look into it. So if the media is furious about a particular comment, Scott Adams talks about this all the time, about this being a hypnosis technique, actually. And I don't think Trump even does it consciously. He just is so good at persuasion, he knows how to bust this out. And basically, every time he'll play the victim or something, like you'll see him make a tweet about, it's a shame the media said this about that, but it's really about this, and then maybe he'll link to an article about, you know, whatever, refuting whatever the nebulous contention happens to be.
Redirection.
Yeah. And so in order for people to get outraged, they have to go say the original tweet. And so they get some of his message in there. And all he wanted to accomplish was to get the message out there. Trump is an absolute master at this. He did it all throughout the election. It's I'm convinced one of the major reasons why he won. And he's continued to employ it to alarming effect. The only thing that I find a little unsettling is he stopped doing it as much, which suggests, you know, the Ivankas and Jared Kushners have taken more control. And that is a very potent weapon in his arsenal. He doesn't need to stop doing that. Of all the things he needs to stop doing, that's not one. That's not one of them.
But Brett, there you go. I couldn't say it better than that. There must be something you want to say about the last little.
Well, I think the question that springs to mind is, do you therefore think that he is playing 4D chess, which is one of those terms we always hear?
Well, I mean, if you consider using basic persuasion techniques 4D chess, then he's playing 4D chess. It's undeniable. You do not go from private citizen to president of the United States in less than a year without some aptitude. I'm sorry, folks. I'm not going to entertain that fantasy. I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you the world is fucking flat. That's just. I'm sorry.
That's my job, but I agree. You can't say no one can have it both ways. I'm skeptical about the globular Earth, but we'll talk about that later, Razor, if you care to. But I will say this: it's just like G.W. Bush. I don't like G-Dub. Looking back, I didn't like him when he was president that much, but that's neither here nor there. But the idea that they used to peddle that he was a moron, even him, he was a Bush and all, skull and bones, you know, did all the stuff to be there. But even then, you can't be a moron and be the president. Now let's focus on what you just said. Everyone, please, Britisher. You cannot, not saying 4D chess either. I'm going to stop short of that, just like I think Razor just did. But you cannot go from being a private citizen and never being a dog catcher to president of the United States of America and be a fool. That's impossible.
Do me a favor. Say, this is CNN.
No.
This is
I will.
No, I will say something else for you in that voice, though. Not that, though. How about this? Razor Fist, the Rageaholic. News you can laugh at.
I thought all news was news you could laugh at these days. As long as
I'll tell you what, I got disjointed because what happens with me is when we have a guest on, even if I know them and watch their stuff, I go back and I watch their stuff and I get caught up on the here and now. Oh, but you bastard, you Razor. I mean, I just kept watching, movie reviews and mythos and none of the like up to date. It was all like 1980s pap that made you feel good, like your hair is long and the wind is in it and it's all good.
Can I interject something for 2 points? And I would love to hear people specifically.
But for conscience sake, before I let you cut loose, Zero, how much time are we talking here, Razor? Because we'll all humor you as long as you'd like, but we don't want to make you feel uncomfortable. And I do want to get to the final wrap up before it's all over, and I don't want you to skip out on me. So what are we talking about in the time frame right now before I cut Razor?
Whatever. We can do this last.
All right, rock and roll, Zero. You heard the man.
Okay, first I just want to say this is CNN News. We bring you fake news 24/7 all the time, every day. Secondly, isn't basically President Trump playing this as a business, more off of a business model as opposed to a politician's political agenda type model, which is why the legacy media and everybody else gets bent out of shape?
Yeah, which is why it's hilarious because the establishment have nobody but themselves to blame for Trump's success. Because what did they spend the entire 20th century doing to the presidency? Turning it into a fucking business. You primed the office for this man. You stupid fucks.
Yeah, and they basically and everything helped when they consistently. I'm simply saying this as a person from Iowa. When they were saying stuff. I'm not saying President Trump, when everybody else was saying, oh, he's going to lose, he's going to do this, you talk down to the average voter in Iowa or the Midwest or somebody who is basically saying, I don't like this other candidate either. You fan the flames of the fire even more because you're treating everybody else like an imbecile. And President Trump came to my town, came to a lot of southern Iowa towns, and he basically treated us like human beings. And that's something that the legacy media and the establishment has seemed to, maybe intentionally or willingly, lost along the way. You don't piss on the people that put you in power, and you don't basically screw around with the people making your lunch at Burger King, so to speak.
You don't put your boot down too hard on the people you're standing on, damn it.
I learned that the hard way at Denny's one time, by the way.
Oh.
Mushroom burger, folks. I would not recommend it.
Oh, you can't leave us hanging on that. Yeah, but you can't just leave us hanging.
It's probably like out of Fight Club with the.
My wife would happen.
It's a pretty tame story. So I used to work at a comic book store, and one time we're rolling out after a big store meeting, and we decide we're going to go out and get food. And the only place that's open because the meeting was really late was Denny's. So we hit up Denny's. And we're looking over our menu and we want our drinks. And finally the waiter comes and he's like, hi, everyone. My name is Tad. I'll be your server for tonight. And he was setting the drapes on fire. It was I should probably mention it was the gay Denny's. It has a reputation here in Phoenix. So we're sitting here. I'm sitting here like, after he leaves, I'm like, oh my god. And all I say is, wasn't that homophobic? I lean into my manager and I say to him, Tad, huh? I bet he's a hit with the ladies. That's all I said. And my manager gets like a ghost white expression on his face. He's like, and the server is standing directly behind my ass as I say this. He's fixing our drinks. And needless to say, I had the most violent fucking stomach pains and vomiting
Oh, you think Montezuma's Revenge? It was, what was it? The Menser's Revenge from what do they call it? Stonewall's Revenge.
Yeah, I think he gave me the Freddie Mercury special on that one.
That's better than the Charles Bronson special of a rocket launcher, wouldn't you think?
I know, right?
Hey, Razor, that was pretty good. I give that a 6 out of 10. But I tell you what, last time you were here, you told us a couple of, I think it was 3 anecdotes. A couple of them tickled me. My wife here, she works so hard. She honestly, and now this day and age, she probably doesn't have to work quite as hard as she does, but she does. So if you would humor Mrs. Ogre. Remember you told us something about you were in a band and you were going to do the stage dive, but you like hit a beam. Do you remember that? Now, I don't want to hear that story. I just wanted to remind you of that, so I didn't get to read. Could you give us an anecdote from your metal band days? Just whatever might come to your mind that would tickle our fancy. Is that too much to ask, sir?
I couldn't off the top of my head. Okay, well, we were recording a music video in the middle of the woods in Prescott, Arizona, which is way up in the mountains. That's, forest. Believe it or not, we do have forest in Arizona. It's not, a wooden shack and a tumbleweed here in Phoenix. So we're in the middle of the woods, and so the drummer sets up his goddamn drum set in the middle of a fucking forest. And we can't plug into anything. We weren't about to haul amps up this fucking mountain. This was not happening. So we're playing instruments that are not plugged into anything. And we fucking hang out. We're hanging out there and whatever. The drummer starts warming up on his drums because you totally have to play the drums for real in a fucking music video. And it just sounds like an AK-47 going off because this is black metal. He's he's doing the Cannibal Corpse shit. And the fucking park rangers get called on us. They think there's machine gun fire going off. They think we're firing fucking military ordnance in the Prescott Forest.
Lord have mercy.
That's the only one I can think of off the top of my head. And of course they show up and we're all in like makeup and spikes and shit, like just out of nowhere. They're like, what cosmic bunny hole did I fall down?
Just for the fun of it, what year was that, if you can remember roughly?
Mid-2000s.
Oh, okay, all right. So I mean, there still is goodwill in the world. At least they didn't like grab y'all and slam you down because you were playing some instruments, with no, I don't know. That was great though. Thank you. Sorry to put you on the spot like that. It's just, you know what? Life is too short not to hear new things from new people. That's just my philosophy. And you're just an interesting cat. So what the hell were we talking about, Britisher? Did I just ruin the whole stream? Should I just end it now? What's up?
Doobie-gate.
Doobie-gate. You remember? Yeah, I'm never gonna live that one down. Thanks, Mrs. Ogre, be busting me with that. Oh, I thought you were gonna can some squash today, Mr. Ogre. Doobie-gate.
I ain't letting it go either.
Nope, it'll never die.
Oh well, thank you.
I'm sure someone could make a mix out of that. Just Amanda's voice saying "Doobie-gate." If you cut it up enough, you could more than likely do something like Paul Hardcastle's 19, just out of Doobie-gate.
One of those Rick and Morty "I Am Alive" kind of songs.
Ask Taran Gill. He's Razor Fist's editor. I'm sure he could conjure up something.
Well, I tell you what, I really want to make sure that next time I get a hold of you, Razor, that it was a painless experience. It was something that wasn't too terrible with me asking you awkward questions right in front of a chick that you've never met. Because as much as I get free and easy and put it all in the wind.
No, I pay for that kind of treatment down on Hollywood Boulevard.
Oh, man, I'm telling you, we've been married for a long time. I've been accused of having social Tourette's. Now, it hasn't hurt me terribly in my life, but
what is that? Where you just shout out compliments? No, that's Canadian Tourette.
No, that's Canadian Tourette. No, I think we all know it. I say sometimes I will go to places that maybe other people just wouldn't or aren't willing to, because I think it bases a sense of curiosity. And hell, that's the whole problem with the world. There's no curiosity. We have this crazed mainstream media. That was the end little topic here, no matter how crazy I made it at the very end. They're just People will present what they want to present. We can either accept it or we cannot accept it. In my case, you know, I'm a little crazy, whatnot. And in fact, that goes with everybody gathered together here, including my dog. We're all a little crazy. But you can accept it. You can take them for what they are. You can leave it. What I'm seeing lately, and this is the time, folks, where what I'll do, Razor, is I would like you to have the place of honor.
This
and
is your Jerry Springer final thought?
This is the final thought. But not just, I will be Jerry Springer.
Until next
today.
time, take care of yourselves.
Hey, what was the white guy's name? What was the big guy's name?
That was Steve.
Yeah, Wilco. So I will be Jerry Springer today, and the British will be Wilco. So as we give our final words, we'll go just like this. I mean, it's so easy to remember, and everybody here is intelligent. We'll start with Zero Cool. We'll go to a Mrs. Jones, and then to Amanda Wolfchild, then to yourself, to Britisher, and to myself. And so we'll wrap it up like that. And yeah, that's, you know, I don't know how else to do it as a way to give you a spot where we always let the low man on the totem pole go first, Zero. So I think, you know, what I could do is I could try to talk about something different, or I could keep on just babbling like I have been, Doobiegate, hashtag Doobiegate, or I could just do that. And so, you know, whatever it is, I think I already explained it to you, Razor. You could just plug your channel. You could just say Ogre has a weird beard, or whatever it is that you want. So that's it, folks. Let's think about tonight and what maybe is on your mind, Zero.
Not really much. I've been wanting to talk with Razor since, you know, you and I started talking. So I'm very privileged to be here. I've been a big fan of yours for a long time, and I love the metal mythos. You actually got me back into certain bands that I hadn't heard from in years, and I was very happy to see the follow-up with Steve Gromit from Grim Reaper, knowing that he's doing a lot better. And I love... I'm not being a kiss. I'm just saying thank you for doing what you do, man, and keeping me informed on stuff, because I don't get to do everything I want whenever I want. So, you know, having you, Styx, Hexenhammer, and Steven Crowder be my top three for fun stuff and new stuff and whatever else, and especially how you handle the film genre of action heroes. And I would just ask one thing. Will you ever consider doing any reviews on Cynthia Rothrock?
Yeah. No, I've thought about that before. She was in, was it Dragon Lady, Ninja Lady? I forget what the fuck that movie was called. I watched that on TV a long time ago. Cynthia Rothrock was in a lot of kick-ass movies. And yes, I absolutely would.
Oh, and thank you.
Wow, was her attractiveness overstated in the 80s.
Well, she's still very pretty, and being a grandmaster in multiple genres of the martial arts doesn't hurt either. But I don't have any final thoughts. Thank you for letting me speak with you. Thank you, Ogre. Thank you, Britisher, everybody here. And is that a Pop Secret popcorn box in your background?
Yes.
Thought so.
Sure, you see that, but not the fucking revolver hanging in a fucking shoulder holster there.
Well,
the badass thing you fucking ignore.
I was just having too much fun rolling on the floor laughing, watching the Escape from LA video where you fall into your Punisher standee, and being a guy that was out of in his early 20s when that came out. I knew it was brilliance for what it was. I'm sorry that I had to put up with the hapless dipshits who thought that Woodstock 99 was the be all end all of the 90s. That's all I gotta say.
Well, that's excellent. I think we can all remember the order. We'll just keep cascading it on down the mountain like a snowball.
All right, so then that means that it's my turn. So with regards to, we were talking about the media and how they were treating Trump and all that jazz, and I just wanted to say that the reason they're probably doing that is because they've had the reins basically for the last 8 years, right? So they've gotten pretty used to getting what they want, and like a spoiled teenager child, when they don't get what they want later on down in life, they're going to have a tantrum. And I think that's the equivalent of what they're going for right now, is a tantrum, because they're not getting what they want, and they want it more than anything. So that's my 2 cents.
Oh, is it my
That's all I
turn?
gotta say.
Is it my turn?
Yes.
All right. Well, I don't know. Y'all talked about a lot of stories before I got here, so I was late as usual. But it's always a lot of fun hanging out and chatting with Razor Fist. You got as many crazy stories and you go off on as many tangents as I do. So that always makes us super cool. But the world's gone crazy. Everybody dies. Nothing matters. Come watch TV. Rick and Morty's fucking awesome. That's it. I don't know. Oh, wait. Go back on camera, Ogre. I wanted to ask something when I could see your wife's face.
Yeah.
Okay. Because her face is really going to answer. Anybody ever told you you have control issues, dude?
Who, me?
Yeah, her face answered it. Sorry. That's cool.
Yeah, she's laughing because she's the one that's got all the control. But we'll carry on, and this is fine. We don't usually, you know what, Razor, this is usually, we do church 3 days a week, and this is like a sacred time, so I'll try not to break into anybody's final thoughts. Thank you so much, Ma. You know what, even though you were late, sweetie, we were off, the mic was off, but we were talking, Mrs. Ogre just said, I like her, and we really do. We're so happy to have you around.
I love to come in and fuck up your streams, dude. It's always fun.
Rock and roll, Razor. You know, say anything you want to. I think you got the gist of it. You could just be, you know, whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. I think what it really comes down to with media and with people perpetually playing the victim is, I think some people hear the term persecution complex, assume that it's a location, and decide to take up permanent fucking residence.
Yes.
I think that's essentially what's happening here in our society, left, right, and center, mostly left. So that's effectively. Also, I'd like to tell Hank Rollins, who keeps weighing in on these items of minutia politically, fucking spoken word is not code for shitty stand-up, pal. Get your head deflattened. So, the end.
Okay, I guess that hands it over to me. The thing I would like to touch upon here is someone before basically told me once again what for a proud proponent he is of not having any states, basically an anarcho-capitalist. And I sort of thought, well, we just have an item in the news which kind of proves quite clearly how much we need states. And that is when Hurricane Irma comes smashing into the country and smashes everything up. And you have water everywhere, and you have buildings going down, and you have got looters. And suddenly one is reminded, one is kind of shaken out of one's comfort zone as a kind of comfortable citizen who can basically just declare that, well, one doesn't really need all these things. When all the chips are down, one suddenly realizes that one may actually need a state after all. I mean, we are perhaps living in a time of kind of state overreach, which is more than likely what over here in Britain has led to the Brexit, that one kind of realized that these institutions, I mean, I know the EU was not part of the British state, but it was sort of an extension of the state. Yeah. That these institutions are kind of overreaching themselves. And that therefore there is, I think, just as much in the US, a reaction to that. That we are basically saying, look, enough is enough. That this is too much. We need less of it. But one always has to remember that one can go too far the other way. And once your house is just blown away and, you know, your whole neighborhood is underwater, you would actually be quite glad for there to be a state that perhaps sends some helicopters to help. So really, that would be the end of my thought, other than just wanting to put a link in the side chat for perhaps Ogre to show on screen, because I've been checking for a hashtag that might be of interest to him.
I do pretty much agree with everything you said. I just want to point out that if you compare Harvey to Irma, Texas kind of proved that we do fine by our damn selves.
All right, I don't mind that you just stepped up my last word. I love you so much, and I did want to ask you about Texas. I'm sorry we couldn't get into that today. I just, you know what, girl, as the winter approaches, I'll probably pester you a little bit more for church. I'll just leave that at that.
Fuck you. I'm from Phoenix. Winter is my favorite day of the year.
So please do share it with the people, Mr. Ogre. What hashtag did I just send you?
Okay, I'll bloody screen share it. Here you go, Britisher. So funny. I mean, we have one like the most intellectual cat that we get on the stream, man. And it's like Doobie Gate. That's what's going to be remembered by this.
Yeah, we're not letting you live it down, bro.
Forget, Mrs. Ogre. Forget the time that I spent in academia and the energy that I put in broadening my mind and expanding my understanding of humanity and the way that the psyche works. Forget about that, Mrs. Ogre. It's Doobie Gate. All right, that's it though, folks. Even to Razor Fist, everybody, thank you so much for that, Brett. And you've practically destroyed my final word. You know, it's hard for me to be succinct and say things quickly, not quickly like Razor Fist, where it's like a machine gun of verbiage just coming at you. And if you don't have the right kind of wit, you will miss all the jokes, not some of them. They won't go over your head. They'll go through them. So here's my final word. Hopefully, we would understand. Listen, if you believe in the mythos of Christianity, let's go back to the PMRC. And you go back to that, the PMRC. You know, we have to have this Puritanian view. You go back to the Christian mythos. Moses brung the Israelites out of bondage, out of the house of slavery. And when they got the 10 Commandments, these easy 10 Commandments, they said, this is not that we can't do this. It's too easy. We want more. And I'm not encouraging anybody to read the Bible. I'm just telling you, take my word for it or go look. You can see this is what happened. And they said, we want more. And so God said, okay, you want a theocracy? You want me to tell you what to do other than just don't hurt, don't kill, don't steal? Yes, we don't want this 10 Commandments. So he said, okay. And there was this litany. We are battling something that a benevolent God did not want to impose on us if you follow the Christian mythos. Now that part, let me leave that aside because this isn't a sermon. It's not a call to give your heart to anything or to do anything other than apply your mind. If you don't need a hall monitor, if you don't need a nanny, if you don't need someone to tell you you're racist, you're sexist, you're homophobic, if you don't need Anita Sarkeesian to point it all out, well, then join humanity. I don't think any of us do once we're past the age of accountability. 12, let's say 12, you know, when we know better, when we don't beat up people for taking the kickball. So I just hope that we wouldn't persecute people like Razor Fist. I want to point it out again. He entertains my beloved wife and some other nurses sometimes at a hospital where these people, I mean, they're not evil killers.
I think I've seen that movie. It's on Skinamax at about 2 a.m.
Easy. But I'll tell you what, on that happy note, I'll leave it at this. Look, do what's right. And don't hurt, don't kill, don't steal. And be good to your friends. Be good to your family members. Be good to your loved ones. Be quick to say you're sorry. Hey, look, be even quicker to accept an apology, especially when that thing your friend, your family member, your loved one has done seems to be so huge, you'll never be able to forget about it. Because constant viewers, Razor Fist, at a time you think not, your friends, your family members, your loved ones, your life and your cause will depart from you.